inside the floor. Scoops it up. Booker brings the boom.
And we're back with a little NBA hardwood action. Two-man booth with my guy DC rallying up the Warriors on Twitter, from NBA to politics to, I mean, you name it. If you want to ask DC a question, this is what the chat's for. Go on. It can be about anything you want. DC's going to answer you because he's been fighting in the streets all day. So he's ready to go. DC, ready to go? Anything goes, right?
Anything goes. I'm down for that. Yeah, we can talk about whatever the fuck we want on this show. So
right.
I'm with you there. And that's been one of the great changes, JSU, is now more than any time in the last like 10 years, you can kind of say whatever you want these days with less repercussions, I would say.
Yes.
So yeah.
I enjoy the stuff, like the people who like tweet out the thing like, oh, I went to work and I had a meeting and I said the word retarded and everyone just laughed. And it was like I didn't get HR called on me or stuff like that. It's like, yeah, see, we can say shit again. Like no one's going to get mad at me if I say a bad word. Like have some fun.
So some people will get mad.
Those people can suck it.
Did you see the guy dunked on for DMing me his take that he disagreed with me on, instead of just replying in the thread like everybody else? And then,
yes, I did. And you posted you like screenshotted his message and then you posted it.
I saw it for 1 second. I screenshotted it, I tweeted it. And so we dunk on the guy, but then he DMs me and he's like asks nicely to take the tweet down because he's getting a bunch of DMs. He doesn't want the attention. What do you do there? I deleted the tweet. I mean, I don't want to ruin a guy's afternoon. Whatever, I'll delete the tweet for you. Yeah.
And you do. You got a lot of followers on Twitter, so like he would get more and more, not just from your followers, but it would get more steam, as it goes. And I will say it was kind of fun. I laughed, you know what I mean. But
we got to dunk on it for 20 minutes, but we don't need to ruin the guy's day.
Yeah, well, that's good of you. That was nice of you because it would have definitely probably ruined his day if he just kept getting it.
If he would not have asked nicely, JSU, if you would have been like, "Oh, I'm going to sue your ass," I definitely would not have deleted it. But since he asked nicely, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, well, listen, I'll just say one. Like, I don't care if you put it in DMs, if you put something out there, like there's a chance that someone's going to put it like fully out there. So, if you don't want things to be seen by others, like you better be careful about what you write.
He DMs me like he's got some secret inside information that only he knows, and it's like, dude, you've been on Twitter since 2009, it says, and you've amassed 55 followers with all your inside info. Like, I don't think you have something that you can't put out there in public. Just go ahead and say it. Nobody follows you or knows who you are anyway. So why are you DMing me? I've never heard of you in my life. It makes no sense.
Yeah, those people, everyone knows something is insider info. There's not, okay? There's no insider info. But that's for another. Well, I mean, maybe some people know, certain things like a day before it happened. There's really nothing, you know what I mean? Like,
not this guy.
not like people on Twitter like that either. By the way, sure. You know what I mean? Like, and the people that know the shit, DC, they don't want to be recognized. Like, they don't want to. They might have followers.
That's who this guy thought he was. That's why he didn't want to say it, because he didn't want to give the information to the public. But he knew. He knew the truth. Yeah.
BG3, I don't know if we're going to go 2 hours today. I'll just say that. I don't know. I mean, maybe we will. I don't fucking know. I mean, we're probably not going to go up to long.
We can talk politics for the first hour. We could go 2 hours.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if we literally talk about anything and anything, this could definitely go up to lock. Because if that's the case, then I can open up the floodgates. Because I know DC's a Chiefs guy, so I can start talking about how the Bills got screwed, and then DC will come in on me, and then we'll just go back and forth.
They
I
did
could
get
extend
screwed.
this show easily, DC, if I wanted to.
The Bills did get screwed. I said as much. I mean, Allen
I,
clearly had the first down. I was on your side
you,
on that
you,
one.
so actually, that wasn't my take once the next day. So I don't know if you watched the show yesterday. I talked about it yesterday, but I'll just tell you real quick. Because when it happened, I'm not going to lie. Like when it happened, I had a lot of money on the line. I was in like second or third in the 150 going into that fourth quarter when the Bills had the ball and the whole like fourth down.
Yeah.
Did he get the first down? And the way my team was set up, I had way more outs if the Bills kept the ball and kept driving. I had more outs if they scored.
Yeah.
There was really only one guy that could hurt me, and it wasn't Josh Allen because he wasn't doing that good at quarterback. No one really had him. So, like, he could have scored really, and it wouldn't have mattered. And I had two other Bills on my team. So, like, I was rooting for them to keep the ball because obviously I wanted the clock to drain. I knew if they kept it, they were going to run the football, obviously, and try and drain the clock a little bit to give Mahomes less time and, hopefully score with, just a little bit of time left on the clock. And then who knows what happens from there.
It's like an ECW. Is that a wrestling thing?
That is a wrestling thing. Yes. And so DC is not an ECW guy, crew, because he just said, what the fuck is ECW? So I can't have ECW was the best like wrestling organization that not everyone knew about. Everyone knew about WWF and WCW, but
you
ECW
were
was
you were deep in the weeds. You're watching like the minor leagues of professional wrestling.
I told this too, but like growing up in my house, I had two older brothers. Both of them were into wrestling, but one of them was extremely into wrestling. And it was the one that was closer to me, not the one that was 10 years older than me. It was the one that was only like 2 or 3 years older than me. And the TV, if you wanted to watch TV, a lot of times you had no choice but to watch wrestling because that's what was on. So, and my uncle used to tape everything. So he had all these VHS tapes of all these shows, all these wrestling like pay-per-views and shows. So whenever there wasn't one going on, he'd watch an old one. You know what I mean? Like he would just like, there was always wrestling on. There was Ultimate Fighting back in the day when it was the Ultimate Fighting Championship. There was that on whenever that was. We had the VHS tapes of those two. Like it was always fighting, wrestling.
What I'm hearing, Jesse, is it's not your fault that you're into that dog shit professional wrestling. It's not your fault. Your family, is just kind of.
Yeah, honestly, I liked it the least out of everyone in my family. Like out of all my brothers, I liked it the least because I actually liked sports, and they didn't love sport. Like they didn't love sports. I love sports, but back to the Bills game because that's what I was telling you about. The next day when I looked back, I said two things. I said they fucking ran the tush push and they didn't do it right. And they did it way too many times and failed. So that was strike one. And on top of it, they didn't give James Cook 25 touches, and James Cook was cooking every time he touched the ball. And I didn't understand it.
Let me guess, he was on your good team.
Oh yeah, he was on my good team. But my point though was looking back on it, the Bills made so many mistakes. They shouldn't have even been in that situation to begin with, where they're calling the tush push after it didn't work 5 times out of the 6. And the one time it worked, it was because Josh Allen jumped over and almost fumbled the ball. And it wasn't really a tush push. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, why do you keep running this play? The Chiefs clearly have you guys with this play that for whatever reason, I don't know why, but they have you. So stop running it. And they just kept doing it.
This sounds stupid, and I know Chiefs haters are going to maybe not agree with this, but like the Chiefs just have this like aura around them of just winning the games. And I think teams like choke at the end against them,
They always win close games, DC.
Yeah.
They always play close games, by the way.
There's something to it, obviously. Like,
I don't get it, but is there any other team that you feel more confident in when you bet them at the end of a game than the Chiefs, like ever? Like,
no, I've been doing it for like 7 years. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe the Patriots, like maybe if you rode the Patriots dynasty, they were the other team that you always felt. Yeah. Like these are the two though. Like I can't remember a team where every time I bet against them going into a fourth quarter, I'm thinking I'm just totally screwed because the game is close. You know what I mean? Whether they're down or up, I'm thinking I'm totally screwed. You know what I mean? Like that. And that's the way I thought with the Bills. I thought about it after, and I was just like, they fucked it up. Like I thought they had a bad game plan, especially a bad short yardage game plan, because they kept running that tush push, and James Cook was getting 4 or 5 yards a clip every time he ran the football against one of the best run defenses in all of football. And they did it against the Ravens, and they did it against every other run. The Broncos were a top run defense. What did they do? They ran right through them. I just didn't understand why they wouldn't keep doing what got them there. And I think people were confused at what got them there, but that's what got them there. They were a running football team. Yeah, I mean, especially in the playoffs.
His wide receivers are shit. Allen's like,
I mean, he had Matt Collins was his top guy. I mean, come on.
I actually thought the Commanders could have beat the Eagles. Those fucking fumbles, man. I thought that game would have been close.
I'll tell you right now, the Eagles have run really well, whether you see it as running good or just they create turnovers, because against the Rams had a chance to win, and they turned the ball over 3 times.
Yep.
And the Eagles, I don't think, turned it over once. And then the Commander, same thing. Like they turned you can't win turning the football over that much. Like they're driving, and then they just turn the football over. It happened 3 times.
Chiefs won't turn it over.
The only way is if you can get pressure up the middle on Pat Mahomes. That's like the only way you can get him like a little rattled. Pressure up the middle. And they do have Jalen Carter, and he's a beast. So maybe he's the one chance. I think he's the most important guy for Philly, to be honest with you. Everyone's talking about their whole defense. Like, he is the most important guy. If you can slow him down somehow, the Chiefs can win easily because they've got enough weapons.
Chiefs will win on a last second field goal.
I'm sure they're gonna get some type of call, and then we're gonna get right back to where. And I bet the Eagles, like, what was it, 2 years ago when they faced off? Was it 2 years ago?
I think so.
They faced off. I bet the Eagles then. I was so confident too in the Eagles. I still remember how confident I was in the Eagles, and that call pissed me off so bad. I was like, so I don't know if I can go back, DC. I don't think I can do it again with the Eagles, but
you got a couple weeks.
Yeah, that's true. I'm sure I'll make the wrong decision either way on these games. These are the 2 teams I hate the most, so I'm sure I'll make the wrong decision.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the hoop stock here. Let's see. It wasn't even a tush push JSU. It was a stand straight up. I talked about this, but if you watch Jalen Hurts run the tush push and you watch Josh Allen, the setup is completely different. When you watch Jalen Hurts, his helmet and his pad level is lower, but when he's just going before he even hikes the ball, it's lower than Josh Allen. It's probably because Josh Allen's a taller guy. But when he hikes the ball, like off the snap, his chest never comes up, DC. It stays level to the ground, and he just drives forward. Josh Allen, when he took the snap, every time his chest would come up a little and he'd move to the left. And they knew that. Like, the Chiefs knew that's what he was going to do, and he never changed it once. Like, wouldn't you like fake and bootleg one time, or fake and go right, or I don't know, like do something.
I love that we transitioned to NBA, but someone got you right back on the
I'm sorry. It still drives me nuts. I can't help myself. All right, now we'll get to the NBA talk, DC, because we got a good slate here. We got a nice good slate on DraftKings. I think it's 9 games on the main slate, all between 7 and 8, which I'm really loving these slates where it's like an hour in length between 7 and 8 o'clock, DC. Like, you can do your swaps if you need to swap, if there's some news at 7:30 or 7:25. And then after like 7:30 hits, for the most part, you're pretty much good, unless you never know with the NBA, I guess, but hopefully you're good and you don't have to worry about late scratches like with some teams. But I've enjoyed these hour and length slates.
Yeah, these little blitz slates, right, where it's just an hour long. And you and I both, I think we kind of play a little similarly, where it's like 2 to 3 lineups, most of the time. It's 2 lineups per site for me. And yeah, right. It's like during that hour, and of course, the time beforehand, it's a grind. But then, you get an hour into it, and okay, you've made your team, and you'll see the results. So certainly enjoyable. Plenty of players to choose from, and I mean, the way the NBA is these days, like so much news. But on a shorter time period, you don't have to do as much backloading, right? Because that is so often, in my opinion at least, so often the right answer is to backload that it makes it a little bit less fun, right? And
you don't unless it's a slate like last night where you somehow backloaded and caught the Steph Curry news. You know what I mean? Because no one knew that. That's the one thing with NBA DC that is annoying in a way, because you just never know.
If you don't backload, you do not give yourself an opportunity to benefit from stuff like that. That's why I think it's almost always the best decision. You don't have to, you can take a player or two, but when it's a long slate, you want to leave yourself flexibility, in my opinion, on most slates.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of especially when you're talking about a slate like I was talking about yesterday, where there was multiple hours before the next game. You know what I mean? Like it was 7 or 7:30 and then 10. So there was a long time for something to pop up. And of course, Steve Kerr is like, "Hey guys, you want me to fuck this whole slate up? I'll do it. I'm gonna get Steph Curry out."
I had a really strong FanDuel team that finished with Sexton and Jackson Davis, who played like 5 minutes and just never came back in. He didn't even play bad. I don't know what happened.
I thought he got hurt. Didn't he get hurt?
I mean, I was like, I wasn't watching. I was just following on my phone, but there was no like notification of a locker room or anything. He was just gone.
Yeah. Oh, that's tough, man. Because he only played like 5 minutes or whatever.
It was just a weird one. It's like, where'd he go?
Yeah, and that was the thing too with that slate. Like if you didn't play some of those Warriors, like some of those Warriors with those price tags they were completely nutted on the slate last night. So yeah, whatever. We move on to this slate. And this slate, I mean, DC, we talked about, saving some spots to backload, but some of these early games, they look kind of juicy from the standpoint where teams are missing a lot of key guys in certain spots. And then you got some teams that are just in good matchups. You got Toronto going up against Washington, which is always a fun time for opposing teams when they go up against Washington. Washington's down some guys. Brooklyn and Charlotte. Brooklyn's always down a few guys, and Charlotte's down a bunch of guys. So let's start there with Brooklyn and Charlotte, because I do think it's one of the more intriguing early games in Charlotte. I think Charlotte's still favored here. You got Mark Williams, LaMelo Ball, Josh Green, Trey Mann's still out. Cody Martin, just a bunch of guys. Brandon Miller and Grant Williams obviously still out. But, it's just going to put into play a ton of guys, DC. I mean, Micic is going to start, and I hope people have learned their lesson with this guy. He's 5,300. He literally never does anything in these spots, and I get it's against Brooklyn.
I'm done with Micic. I'm not playing him.
I mean, I know it. I know it too. I'm sure this is the game where he might have a good game, but I'm just not doing it. I think Nick Smith Jr. is a better player. I think he's just better. I said this last time they played when everyone was like, because I like ranked the guards in the chat. I remember this, and someone was like, "You like Nick Smith Jr. Why?" And I was just like, he's just better. Like he's a better basketball
I was on
player.
him too. I was saying to fade Micic, and he did okay, but
it was hard because Micic was like 30. What was he? 3,300 or 3,400?
Yeah, right.
3,400, something like that. I don't know. And I was just like, he's not good. Like he's just not.
How did that man win the EuroLeague MVP? How trash must that league be? If Micic is the best player in the whole damn league, man. It must be some garbage basketball over there in Europe.
Yeah, I mean, the style's a little different too, but again, like it's definitely a little watered down compared to the NBA and the night to night. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Like you can see, like he just doesn't have the explosiveness, the athleticism to hang
He
night in
can't
and
get
night
around the
out in
corner on
NBA.
screens, right? He's too
Oh,
slow. Like you just
too
can't.
slow.
Yeah.
So if he's not hitting shots, DC, if he's not hitting shots, if he's not like making plays for others, he's really in trouble because that's what he's got to kind of rely on in the NBA. He can't really use anything. Like some of these guys, when shots are going down, they can just rely on athletic ability. You know what I mean? Like,
you know what I like about you, JSU? You actually have a take here. You don't need to see the updated projections close to lock to tell the people that Micic sucks and you're not going to play him, right? You can just jump on the board. Yeah.
I'll just say so. I've never needed a projection. I've worked with so many people.
Yeah, you're a ball knower. You love this.
I've worked with so many people, and I've worked with great people, and I know I would never say anything bad against them. I'll just say to you though, like most of the people I work with, when news hits, they need to wait for that updated projection to hit, and like I would talk for them to help them. You know what I mean? It's like I totally get it, but like I've watched basketball so much. I just go with what I see. And sometimes I'm wrong. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to be wrong sometimes.
Like half the time you're going to be wrong.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm not saying those guys that wait for those updated projections, they're right sometimes too. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying they're wrong either. It's just I don't need to do that to tell you that this dude at 5,300, even if he's going to start and play 33 minutes, I just feel like is not a great play.
We're fading Micic, but that leaves, if you're fading Micic, you have to look at the other Charlotte guys here, right? Because this is against Brooklyn. Like they're favored in this game. I mean, that never happens for Charlotte. So I think Bridges is interesting.
That scared me a little bit.
Yeah.
Like they're favored in this game, but Brooklyn's tanking hard, DC. That's the one thing about Brooklyn.
And then I think Brooklyn's interesting here too, but I think Diabate is to me, he's more interesting than Micic. I know I'm not playing Micic. And I think you could make, I know you have seen Diabate play as well. Like he has no offensive game. Like it is really, really ugly. Like even under the hoop, right? He'll like pass it out on an offensive rebound where he could easily just go up and score. But he is pretty good, I think, at the other things in basketball that are not scoring. And against Brooklyn at 3,700 with only Taj Gibson behind him, I mean, I think his upside is actually pretty high here. Curious where you stand on him, because I think he's a big decision point.
Yeah, he's a huge decision point because he's 3,700. He gets a nice matchup against Brooklyn. And everything you said is 100% right. This dude is raw as hell from the offensive game standpoint.
Like one of the more raw players in the whole league offensively.
100%. Yeah, at first when you watched him early in the season, he wanted nothing to do with the offensive end. And it was like you said, like dude would be under the hoop with the ball to dunk the ball, and instead he'd turn the opposite way and pass it out. I watched him do that multiple times. And I'm like, okay, this guy wants nothing to do with that end. But on the defensive end, he wants everything to do with the defensive end. And he's trying to get every rebound. He will guard good players, even like smaller, like forwards and guards and stuff. If he gets switched out on him, he'll guard those guys to the best of his ability. He's athletic. He can block shots. So like you said, he can get like stocks at times, which is nice for someone who's 3,700, and he can get a high volume of rebounds. So the question for me is, there's so many good center plays on this slate. That's going to be where I'm like, okay, do I want to play him, or do I want to like pay up a little bit and play Jalen Duren in a good spot, who I do like against Indiana, or Jakob Poeltl or Jonas Valanciunas, like pay a little bit more, DC, but I think get 20 points higher of a ceiling. Like what's it worth to you there? So that's because I think you have value at other spots. That's my other thing.
I think that's fair, especially on the center point of being a good spot. One thing I like to look at with these kind of values that are popping up, chalk values, is like if things go well for the player, could big minutes follow? Like, is it at least possible? And for him, I think it is, right? Like he can certainly play 37 minutes. Again, you can't project him for that. I'm not saying that I am, but if Charlotte's playing well and he's getting some offense going, right, and cleaning up the boards, like he could be out there a lot of minutes. And if those things all happen, I mean, he's putting up I think a big score.
I hope they start Taj Gibson.
That would be nice.
Because I honestly think that makes him a better player. Because I think that pulls ownership from him. And Taj Gibson is too old. He ain't playing more than 5 to 12 minutes or something like that.
Wait. How is this not relevant news? This guy is literally the top projected current value on the whole slate. Is Diabate?
I don't think Swoop knows anything about NBA DFS if he thinks this game isn't relevant to NBA DFS.
Yeah. I mean,
the Charlotte literally has, hold on. So they've got like 6 guys out, but let me just see like the value side of it. We didn't even talk about Josh Okogie, who's balling right now with this team. He's too cheap. They've got multiple really, really good value plays, at least from what I'm seeing right now, DC, like besides Diabate. I don't know how in the world you can buy Swoop. You can go somewhere else, buddy. Yeah. I'm sure they won't talk about this game no matter where you go. So good luck with that.
Why don't you DM me your thoughts on the show?
Yeah,
let me know in the DMs.
Good luck. But anyways, back to relevant conversation here. I think we should rank Charlotte because I do think that should be a topic here. I actually got a Okogie 1 with the price, Bridges 2. And then it would probably fall like Nick Smith, Diabate would be like 3-4. Where do you rank those 4?
Yeah, Bridges is a guy I think could really go off. So I think Diabate 1 for me, Bridges 2, Nick Smith 3, and then Okogie. I think those 4 are the 4. Those the same 4 you had that you're considering? I think so.
Yes, those are the same 4. Yeah, same 4. I think we just have them ranked a little. I think I'm a little higher on Okogie than you are. He's actually looked different than in past seasons to me. It looks like his offensive game has started to figure itself out a little bit. Is all I'm going to say about Josh Okogie.
I'll trust you a little bit because that's my deal with him. I've seen him play. I saw him play for the Wolves for a few years, and like he is not. Or at least hasn't been a fantasy.
He would have been a great player if he had an offensive game, right? Because his defensive game was legit. So
I could. How many are you willing to play 2-3 Charlotte on same team on such a big slate?
Right now, I am. Yeah, right now that's what I'm leaning. But again, news could obviously change that. That's why it's obviously a good idea to be a Rump Your Sports member, be in the Discord. That way, if news pops, you ask questions and stuff and see the updated cores and everything like that. But I think right now, from what I'm looking at, I'm cool with 2 Charlotte guys, maybe 3, depending on my builds and stuff like that. Because I agree with you, Bridges seems like a very, very nice spend up, just looking at it right now. So, all right. And then the Brooklyn side, real quick, DC, I think you might like it a little bit more than me. The only play that I think I will think about playing is D'Angelo Russell.
Yeah.
Nick Claxton and Sharp are just kind of butting into each other's minutes a little bit, and that's kind of annoying. So Jalen Wilson looks good to me, but 5,600 is a little steep. So who are you seeing here that I'm not?
If I thought Brooklyn was like really actually trying to, like, Charlotte is, I think still trying to legitimately like win games. But my problem with Brooklyn is I'm just not sure that they're doing the same thing. Like to me, Russell is so clearly their best offensive player that I do think his ceiling is intact. I do worry a little bit about the minutes. And I don't know. You could see like even Ben Simmons in this type of matchup, I think is a little bit interesting. But again, the minutes thing is concerning. And I'm with you, GSC. I played Jalen Wilson last slate. he's been playing big minutes, and it looked like his role has really, really changed, right? With kind of the guys, just where Brooklyn is. I mean, he played 40 minutes. He wasn't even playing well. Shot 4 of 16 from the field, 0 of 6 from 3, did Jalen Wilson in that last game, and they still gave him 40 minutes. So to me, that means there could be a directive, right, from the front office. Like, this is a younger player who we want to see out there. Let's see him develop. So he'll be like sub 1% out. I do think he's at least, I mean, if he's going to play 40 minutes, he could get the job done. I think he's interesting. I don't know if I'll play him, but I do like him.
I feel like someone got in his ear recently and said, dude, go take some shots. We're down like, multiple guys every night. Like, go be aggressive offensively, because that's what it looks like.
He looks like an NBA player to me, and if you're going to give 40 minutes against Charlotte as an NBA player, you got a chance.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it's just D-Russ for me. Joe Ruff, my guy, Joe Ruff, he had a good question over here. He did say, please in this to DC. He said, guys, can you please talk about only talk about games that I, specifically me, want to hear about. Joe Ruff, you didn't give me the games after you asked that. I would have, because I love Joe Ruff, but you got to tell me exactly what you need, Joe Ruff, and I will oblige you and talk about only those games. And then you have to leave, and then I'll talk about the rest of them after that. But I would do that for you, but you got to let me know before. I'm already into the mode now. So, all right, Toronto, Washington, next game up on the slate. Can't be going 2 hours today. This is another game where I think that the bigs are both in play. Joe Val for the Washington side and Podol from the Toronto side. I think both those guys are somewhat in play. I like Joe Val a little bit more just because of the price. I assume he's going to, bump his minutes from, between 17 to 19 to probably like, what do you think, DC? 27, 28, somewhere around there?
I'll take the under. I'll take the under on Joe Val's minutes.
You think he doesn't get 28, 27, somewhere around there?
I don't think they want to play him those minutes. It seems like, I don't know. Another team with nothing to play for, right? Washington, it's like they mess with people's minutes all the time. Joe Val, a veteran, nothing to prove. Is he on the trade block? Seems like he should be.
That's the only reason why I would play him, right? Is like if he was on the trade block and like you wanted to see, hey, show teams he's still got something left. Joe Val, go out there and, I don't know. That's what it would look like to me. If you really think that, though, maybe they wouldn't even start him if they really didn't want him to. I don't know. I feel like his minutes have to go up a little bit, even if it's not an extra like 10 minutes, even an extra 5 or 6 minutes could get him there.
I'll probably leave Joe Val to you. He looks like he's going to be chalky too. I mean, friends at Sabre have him at 30% owned. That, to me, that's too much for a guy with, I think, pretty questionable minutes. And also, I don't think there's any scenario where he plays 33, 34 minutes. It's just not happening, in my opinion, for Joe Val. So, he could still get there, but I don't
think he needs to play 33 minutes. But
I totally get it. I just, yeah.
Mathurin, Nemhard, both out. Benair, you better not be giving me no fake news. I'm looking right now. Oh, he's not. He's
they're out.
He's giving me real news. So thank you, Benair. I take what I said back. I appreciate you. We didn't talk about that game yet, though. So we'll get there in a sec. Stay here, DC. Talk about the rest of Toronto and Washington besides the bigs. You didn't like Joe Val, but anything else from this game?
I am fine with Pirtle. I think I'm off of Washington in general in this one, though. I think the Toronto side's more interesting just because, I mean, they've kind of had a tough season, but I like when these bad teams get in, play a team worse than them, so to speak. So someone like Scotty Barnes, he's expensive, but back-to-back 50 burgers against the Wizards who played no defense, and he's like the main cog of the offense. It feels like a game where he should be safe, and I think his upside is higher too. So I do like Scotty Barnes a little bit. And I think you could play RJ Barrett. I don't know about playing both of them. That's just might be too much salary, but certainly one or the other. Those would be the two Toronto guys that I look at would benefit a little bit if Mr. Grady Dick ends up sitting. We'll see. He's questionable with an illness. So
Yeah.
we'll see the stars for Raptors for me.
Yeah, I think the one guy I'm going to keep in my pool who I do think is playing to get traded to a different team, so he has a little incentive to play good, and you've seen it the last like 4 or 5 games, is Bruce Brown.
Actually,
he's played 27 and 29 minutes with a few guys out. I know it was bigs like Kelly Olynyk was out the last couple games, but if Dick and Olynyk are both out, I think he's the one that, I mean, his minutes are already trending in the right direction.
I'm on board with this. I'm on board with the Brown call. I like this call.
Yeah, so he's the cheapie I kind of like. I think if both those guys are out too, you could leave Chris Boucher in your pool. That's more a 150 play. That's not like a 2 to 3 lineup play, but he at least has upside. He definitely has the downside because the minutes are extremely risky with him. But if both those guys are out, I think you can leave him here. It's against Washington too, which that's like a dream matchup for someone like Chris Boucher. You know what I mean? To go randomly off on. So I would keep him in the pool in the 150. So I'm totally on board with you're right. I think it's Joval, and then I think it's a few of these Toronto guys. Like I'm cool with Scotty. I like some of these cheaper guys if Grady Dick and Olynyk are both ruled out. So yeah, I like the Toronto side. I like the matchup, and I'm a little more on Joval, it seems like, than you. You're kind of off all of Washington. Let's go to the next one, Detroit and Indiana. Joe Ruff said Atlanta Dream and Seattle Storm. I say back to that, I don't know what that even means, so we'll just keep going from there. Naismith time. We're going to have to talk about Naismith a little bit here, but DC, Indiana, and Detroit, we just got the news. Mathurin and Nemhard just got ruled out. 2 guys that, play a key, secondary role for this Indiana team. What does this do? Obviously opens up minutes for some guys. So what does this do for you when it comes to the Indiana side?
The guy I always want to play JSU when Indiana sits, guards or wings is TJ McConnell. I don't understand why he doesn't play more minutes. He's so good.
You know why? You know why? You know why?
I mean, his coach is a white guy. He's short.
No, it has nothing to do with him. He's short. He's too short. Like he's just.
No, he's not though. It benefits him being short. It goes right into his game. Like
I always loved the Embiid ones when he played with him, and he'd run around them. Like he'd run in circles around them, trying to get like free picks off of Embiid's body and stuff, and then shoot that little mid-range jumper in like the kind of like in the paint. Like I loved when he did that stuff. That was always funny to me.
But oftentimes I play him and he doesn't get as many minutes as I hope he gets. So I don't know. 4,100. I'm still intrigued. I'll say that. But yeah, I think more people are going to go to the wings, right? Like Neesmith is 3,300, and then I don't know.
Well, are we assuming he starts? We're assuming he kind of.
I would think so.
Right? I mean, there's a few things they could do. They have Ben Shepherd, who I think we could randomly see. I don't think he's any good. I don't think I'll play Ben Shepherd regardless. No, but I could see that. And then it's either Neesmith or maybe Jarris Walker they throw in there. If Neesmith is maybe his minutes are held up in check. You never really know, but I don't think it's McConnell, DC. I don't think McConnell.
No, I don't think he's going to start, but if I thought he could get 25, 30, he's like J-Vel. To my version of J-Vel.
No, he kind of is in a way where it's like if he gets the minutes bump, from 15 to 25 to 27, like he's probably a pretty good play. I just don't feel like they're going to give him that. So he might get like, what would 22, 23 minutes get you over the hump? Like I could see that.
Well, unfortunately, I don't get to assign the minutes. So, I mean,
no, but I'm saying, like, would you play him if I guaranteed you that?
Yeah, but unfortunately, you can't. That's not something that you can do.
No, I can't. But that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking in my head. So, It's not
25
an actual
guaranteed.
guarantee.
25, I'd play it for sure.
Yeah, I just don't know if he hits that, unfortunately.
not.
So.
What?
All right, so is there anyone you can play? Like, could you play Neesmith if he was starting? Would you?
So he would be one that I would be looking at ownership closely. And I try not to play these, what I consider to be questionable values, into heavy ownership, right? Because I think there are many ways even a starting Neesmith could bust and score 11 fantasy points. So these are the chalk plays that I do try to avoid. I'm sure he would project well, right? If he is in the starting lineup at 3,300, but I'm looking at their last, rotation over on Popcorn Machine, and even with those two guys out, I think they're going to have enough guys. I still think they're going to play a 10-man rotation most likely. So I don't think really anyone's minutes are that much more guaranteed than they were. And I don't know. I don't play much Halliburton. I guess you could go there with two of his running mates out, right? Like, presumably he should have to do more here. What are you doing with Indiana? I think they're kind of a tough call as it stands right now.
I agree with you. I think they're kind of a tough call. I think right now I'm leaning with maybe just going up, like maybe like Miles Turner's a little better of a play. Maybe it's those guys like this, the top tier guys just get a little more of a bump in general. I will say if Aaron Neesmith starts, I'm not going to say he's like the greatest value play, but I don't think he's like a terrible basketball player. He's always had issues with foul trouble. He's always been a little more of a defensive guy, but he can hit a corner three. He can do a little bit offensively. It's more the minutes. Like if you feel secure, because he's only been back for like the last four games or so from being out for a really long time. Like 2 months?
What was
almost
an ankle injury? Yeah, he went. So since he's been back, he's played 9, 11, 19, and then 21 minutes. So he has increased each game. And then obviously this game would be the one where, they might need him to play more. So maybe 26, 27 minutes? I doubt they would go much beyond that coming off the injury. But again, I don't know. I'm kind of speculating, obviously.
I totally forgot about this. I'm playing some Miles Turner. Yeah, little Miles Turner against Isaiah. Hopefully they don't fight. As long as they don't fight, like
I wasn't aware of their rivalry. They got something going on.
Talking shit to each other. It's just talking shit to each other. But I do think I actually thought he was a decent play anyways. I like both centers. There's too many centers on this damn slate because I think both centers are good plays. I think now, before I had Durant over Miles Turner. I think with this news, I might throw Miles Turner ahead slightly of Durant just straight up, but I like both guys in their price tags. And I kind of agree with you that I wasn't going to play Hallie, but I think I'm going to bring him back in my pool as well. 8,100 is just kind of too cheap, honestly. I know he hasn't been the most consistent guy, but he can still on a night to night, he can still get you 50 on a slate. Like he can still do that for you. It's just not as consistent as it was last year for whatever reason.
I honestly wouldn't. I don't know if I'll end up there, but I wouldn't mind playing like a Halliburton, Neesmith, Turner, little Indiana starter. If they're playing well, they could put up points in a hurry, and they're all relatively cheap. So I do kind of like that Turner call.
All right. Anything else from Detroit? We kind of talked more about Indiana, but I mean, I like Durant. I don't know if you had any takes on any of these guys from Detroit. I mean, Cade, Thompson, these guys.
No problem at all with Cade or Jalen Duren, but probably not going to end up there myself.
Yeah, all these other guys, like the minutes, like it's just even Thompson. Like, how does Thompson not play? I know Detroit's been better this year, but like still, how does Thompson not play like 30 minutes every single night at least? Like he's you look at it, you're giving minutes to Tim Hardaway and you're giving minutes to Fontecchio and Malik Beasley's actually been really good, so I won't even put him in here. You're not even giving him like full run. It's just weird.
I mean, they're trying to win games, Detroit is, and he's pretty raw. So I kind of get it. He just has games where he doesn't play well and like can't fit in offensively. But
unless they're just for like health reasons trying to keep him somewhat in check for whatever reason. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I've seen him play 30 minutes. It's just never been consistent in the league so far. So, yeah, I mean, maybe it is something like that. But let's go next game here, Chicago and Boston. Some of these games we won't like as much as others here, DC. No Zach LaVine for Chicago. And then Kobe White is still, I think, questionable.
He's in now.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to say, I feel like he's more probable questionable anyways, but they said he's in. That kind of takes away some of my interest in the Bulls. I think, weirdly enough, Vucevic against the Celtics has actually been pretty good this year. I'm not going to pay $8,500 for him. And then the Boston side, it's just going to depend on, I think if some of these guys are in or out. If Tatum sat, I would really like the Boston side, DC. Like, I'd love, Brown and Porzingis, Derek White. It would be like a great set. Yeah, they'd be such good plays. So it just depends if he's in or out. Like, if Tatum's in, I don't feel like I have to play Boston. But honestly, even if Tatum's in, I'm going to still bump up Jaylen Brown's projection. And because I feel like it's a perfect matchup for him, just in general. And I think projections will be lower on him, especially if Tatum's in. And he's someone who he's kind of a tough guy to predict in general, because he can go off at any point. It's just they have so many good guys that he doesn't need to night in and night out. But 7,600 feels a little light, and so does Porzingis at 6,900. So those are the kind of guys I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just Tatum that's questionable. Hauser and Horford questionable to play as well. I mean, potentially they could sit all three or two of the three. Obviously, Tatum is the more important one. But the nice thing about Boston, JSU, they don't rug pull you and start playing some random dudes that you weren't expecting to see the court and your guys lose their minutes. No, they just lean more on their main guys: Jaylen Brown, Porzingis, Derek White, Pritchard, Drew Holiday. Right? They don't really have anybody else that's a threat to do any of the production for their team. So when Boston gets a couple guys out, especially Tatum, of course, and in an awesome matchup against Chicago, rather, their floor is so high, right? They're going to put up 125 points, and you know your guys are going to get the production. They're all too cheap. So we'll see what they end up doing, but I could see potentially playing 3 or 4 Boston guys if from other teams a lot of players are in, and if 2 or 3 of those Boston guys end up sitting, I have no problem. I mean, we saw it was a month and a half ago now when 6 Boston guys were on the optimal. It was a shorter slate, but it was a situation where Tatum and I think 1 or 2 others sat, and everybody got there. That could happen tonight against Chicago if a couple of these guys are out.
Yeah, that's another reason though why, just in general, I kind of want to bump the projection, and I might just fall into the news on a Jaylen Brown and stuff like that. And if you fall into the news,
the prices are down a little bit too because they haven't sat that much. 7,600 for Brown.
Yeah,
he's sometimes up in the 8Ks. Same thing.
And Boston's been kind of struggling. DC, I could see them giving Tatum a night off. Derek White was exhausted a couple games ago, and I think even Mazzulla noticed it because he only played. It was the Lakers game. They got whooped, but he only played 19 minutes, and I think it was on the back end of a back-to-back. And then I think Derek White rested a game at some point in there, and I could see them doing the same thing with Tatum. You know what I mean? The Celtics are been back and forth. He's been kind of struggling too recently. I could see them giving him a night off, to be honest.
I hope so. I'll take my 40 to 50 fantasy points from all those dudes. Plug them right in there. Sure. Yeah.
All right. So we both agree it's more Boston side, if anything, Chicago with these guys back. I will say, Io's minutes seem to be up. He's the one guy I think the price still hasn't fully adjusted. I think he's a low 6K guy. Where the price tag is still getting up there because he was kind of on a minutes limit, or it felt like a minutes limit the past couple games. So maybe he's someone that he does have some upside, but Kobe White kind of hurts all these guards because now they got 4 and they're going to rotate them a little bit. So, yeah, more Boston than anything else. Let's get to Cleveland and Miami. It's another game. Not like I like to pick on Miami or anything like that, but Cleveland's down a bunch of guys. No Garland, no Wade, no LeVert. All either key guys or role players. And then Sam Merrill is also questionable, which makes it even more interesting because that's just another guard that could potentially be out, and they might be a little thin at the old guard position, DC. So what are you doing with Cleveland? I mean, it looks like you're going to have some of at least a value play. That's probably one of the better value plays on the slate. Well, you got to talk about Ty Jerome and what else are you doing with them?
Yeah, this is another one where you got to take a close look at this one with Garland, LeVert out, 2 of their primary playmakers, scorers, everything, right? 2 important players for their team. Then you've got the role players out too, Wade, Okoro, and Merrill questionable, like you said. So potentially pretty good spot here, I think, to play some Cleveland guys. Obviously not perfect matchup, right? Slower paced game going into Miami. Do we think Jerome starts? I would imagine he does for Garland. I don't know who else it would be.
So I do think that it's possible they could start like a Craig Porter Jr. and bring Ty Jerome off the bench to keep his kind of role the way it is. You'll see some teams like to do that type of stuff.
I think so, but I don't think they want Mitchell playing point. So I bet Ty Jerome's in there as a point guard for Garland.
Well, that's why Craig Porter could play the point. That's why I'm saying I think if anyone, it would be one of them two. Okay. And I also think at 3K Stone Min, either Craig Porter or Tyson's not 3K Stone Min, but he's the other guy. I think they want to see him play a little bit more. He looks good. I could see one of those 2 guys playing in the 20s for minutes. I'm honestly not very confident in which guy it is, but if Sam Merrill's out, I'd feel confident that one of them played, close to 20 minutes, and I think would be a decent value at, 3,100, 3K. I feel like it would be Craig Porter just because he's a guard, and Ty Jerome, as good as he is, they like to play him with another guard that can handle the ball out there a lot. So like, I could see them using Craig Porter a little bit more. We've seen Craig Porter play too. He's a pretty decent, fantasy guy. He can score a little bit. He can create a little bit too. So it wouldn't shock me is all I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, Merrill news does matter, I think, a decent bit here, maybe more than. I agree. Yeah. Regardless, though, I think Jerome, Mitchell, Struss, Mobley, right? All those guys, I think, are pretty good plays.
Yeah. I mean, who do you like to if you had to rank Cleveland, like how are you going about? Do you have Mitchell or Mobley? Who do you have ahead, like between those 2 and Jerome? Like, how are you ranking those guys?
Yeah, I honestly think it's pretty close within the team. So it would be a spot where whichever 1 or 2 Cleveland guys kind of fits in my build at the different positions, I have no problem, happy to play any of those guys, really. I don't think it's a scenario where I necessarily want to play all of them, on one team together. But yeah, I like Cleveland quite a bit. Those 4 would be if Jerome starts, which I do think he will, I think he's the best of the bunch at 4,400. He's a good player, right? I mean, he's like, he can put up fantasy points. He can handle himself out there. He's not just playing because he has to, right? Like he almost like deserving of more minutes, which I do like to play those guys in general. So in on Cleveland, you doing anything with Miami? Tyler Hero, big game last time out.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense to me too, because Tyler Hero's got that type of game where, even against tough defensive teams, especially a team like Cleveland with a lot of length and size, like a guy like Tyler Hero can get it done because he can kill you from the perimeter. He doesn't need to get in the paint to kill you. He can kill you a lot from just being outside. He can get to the line a little bit too. In that game specifically that you're referencing, obviously He's shooting really good from the field. He's hitting threes and stuff like that, which is helping him. He's 8,800 though. Like, man, I wish he was like 8K or something like that, because I kind of like him as a fun tournament play, because I've seen Cleveland in like against competitive teams, like it's kind of more of a fun back and forth game where teams like the better teams are giving it to them a little bit and they're going back and forth.
Lead guards have done pretty well against Cleveland.
Yeah.
I think that'll be the case, especially with Garland out. I think Hero can get going against Mitchell or Jerome, or, you know what I mean, or Craig Porter. Like, yeah,
I do too. I do too. My issue is just the price tag. Like, I kind of want to play him though, just because he's got to be like unowned DC at that price tag. Like, I think he's a great MME play. That's what I think he is. I think if you build 1 to 3 lineups, I think I can get there.
If he's a great MME play, he's a great single entry play. Like,
the price tag. Like, so you're telling me though that in your top 3 lineups, you can play him over like, Scotty Barnes is 9,300. It's only 500 less. You got Donovan Mitchell at 8,400.
You can't.
I think Jalen. I don't know.
You can't reject him for more points than those guys, but once you take into account the massive ownership difference, I think he becomes a fine play in all formats.
I guess you're right. It would depend on like my lineups. Like if I'm jamming a bunch of these chalk guys, I would agree with you. Like if I have a chance to go Tyler Hero or Donovan Mitchell and one guy's 20% and one guy's 1%. Yeah, you're right, because that would be my
tough ask. That's why you're going to get him at 3% owned and not 30. So, you got to decide for yourself.
Again, when you play Tyler Hero, you got to know that the floor is not as great as some of these other guys that we're talking about. But again, you're playing him for that big outcome, right? That ceiling outcome.
Which we do think he's got a decent shot at here. I think it would,
Yes, I definitely do. I think he's the only Miami guy, DC, that I'm going to even consider.
Me too.
I don't think I'm going to play anyone else. I think from the Cleveland side, I got Donnie Mitchell 1. Ty Jerome 1, Donnie Mitchell 2. I'm going to put actually Craig Porter 3, just because I think he's going to have a role if Sam Merrill's out. I think his role will be hurt by Sam Merrill if he's in, but if he's out, I think it helps Craig Porter. So I'm going to put him 3 and then probably Mobley 4. Max Struss is going to play, but he's a guy like I just never played those type of guys where I feel like they have to hit every shot. I know he's been decent rebounding the last few games, but it is a revenge game. It's in Miami. I'm sure he wants to give it to his buddies. I'm sure he's buddies with all those guys and stuff like that. But I don't know. I'd probably put him 5th if I had to like rank him in there. I'd probably throw him 5th.
Yeah, you can't. Playing a few teams can't play everybody. So
exactly. But again, if you're 150 in, I would keep him in the pool too, because he's still cheap. Philly, Sacramento, next game up here. We got another team that's down a bunch of bodies. No Drummond, still no Embiid, no Paul George. I don't know if we got news on Caleb Martin yet. I see questionable still. I don't know if that's changed since we went on live, but they're playing on the back end of a back-to-back. They played last night against the Lakers, kind of dominated the game too. Offensively, they were hot, and they just kind of stayed hot the entire game and pretty much got anything they wanted from that Lakers, especially once AD went out, it was just completely over. Lakers had no shot. Maxey was awesome. Kelly Oubre was actually, in my opinion, really bad, and he dropped 36, and I thought he played like really bad. Like he missed a putback, easy dunk. He missed a bunch of like easy bunny shots.
I had him on all my teams. Did you play him too, I assume?
I played him too, yeah. He went 8 for 18, which honestly, before I would have thought it was like 5 for 18, to be honest. Like, because I felt like he just missed he was 0 for 5 from 3. I think that's another reason why I felt like it was a bad game. it wasn't clicking for him, and he still scored 36. And this matchup's like one of the best matchups, DC. Sacramento has been playing good basketball.
Sign me up, JSU. You don't have to do a lot of convincing on Oubre. I'm always happy to get Oubre in my lineup.
Well, I was going to say it's good basketball from like an offensive standpoint, but like defensively, they're giving up points. And I think this is just a good fantasy game all around, a game that we're going to want some pieces of. And I hate going back to Tyrese Maxey off the great game that he had. But
here's the thing, JSU. He had some in the tank, right? He even got pulled early from that game.
Oh, yeah.
So those are the times when I don't mind going back to the back-to-back, even after a big game. When they blew him out and he had plenty in the tank, that means he's got plenty left today to do it again at home here.
My issue, though, is he was playing LeBron in Philly. He loves LeBron.
Yeah, but this is
LeBron,
Fox and Monk and DeRozan. He wants to go off against those guys.
No, that's not what I'm more saying. Like, it is a back-to-back. If I could see him coasting the game, it would be Sacramento in Philly.
No, I don't think so.
All right. Well, talk about it then, because I definitely like Kelly Oubre, and I can be sold on Maxey just because of the matchup. I mean, this matchup I feel like is a very good one.
I think if you're playing Oubre, you play Maxey with him. That's going to be the approach that I take for sure on at least one of my teams. Maxey will play like 42 minutes if they need him to. Like he can do it. A younger player it just doesn't seem like he gets like worn out physically. He can carry the scoring load, and I kind of think Oubre, with the current guys they have left, is like his clear kind of running mate in the backcourt. Right, clearly the second best player out there with Maxey. So I think those two. I think their minutes are kind of tied together and their performance as well. Plenty of opportunities, JSU, for steals and assists to each other, assists to threes to each other, right? Two guys that I think are pretty correlated. So I like that call. And then Sacramento, Sabonis, I think, is a really, really good play here. I know you watch a lot of Yabusele. He's an okay player, but he is way too small for.
I love him.
What?
I love him though, because you know why? He's that guy that just tries.
I know,
like,
but
he's not the best at anything, but he just tries his ass off like all the time. He plays hungry. I love that he plays hungry all the time.
But he's like overmatched badly against Sabonis. I think Sabonis is going to get whatever he wants.
Oh, I agree with you there. I'm just saying, like, it's cool because in the NBA, you don't see a lot of guys night in, night out that play like him, unfortunately.
I think Sabonis' rebound prop dropped at like 17.5 or something crazy.
He's going to get like 20 probably.
Yeah. So 2020, I mean, sign me up. I like Sabonis. Sabonis, Maxey, Oubre, little mini stack. It's expensive, but kind of like it.
Yeah, I was on him last game against Brooklyn. It was a great matchup. I think this is another solid matchup for him here. And I think the other guy that's really fun for tournaments is not Fox, but Malik Monk, who I feel like gets underprojected, but like he's got games 45, 46, 51. He had 39.
He's the lead guard now over Fox. It's pretty clear.
I wouldn't be shocked too. Like, I could see Sacramento becoming complete sellers if like Fox is really going to be out at the trade deadline. If they decide like, hey, maybe we can get some for Malik Monk or, someone like that. Like, let's just do it and let's start the rebuild. Like, I could see it happen where they just say, screw it, we're going to lose.
I think they might want to build around Monk. I mean, he's awesome.
He's been great. No, I agree with you. I'm just saying, like, I feel like in the NBA, you want to be one where you either want to be in contention or you want to be completely out. You don't want to be in that like middle ground. That's like the worst place to be. You either want to be like all the way down or you want to be up in contention.
Throw Monk on the mini stack with Sabonis, Maxey, and Oubre. There you go.
I'm in on Monk. Let's do it. All right, Denver, New York. Let's move on to that game here. DC, talk about Jokic and anyone else you like here.
Yeah, so Josh Hart is he the only thing we're waiting on in this game? I think officially. Yeah, so Josh Hart questionable. He did play last game. I actually thought he was going to sit that game. He ended up playing. I would assume that he'll be back out there, but again, obviously news to watch. High total in this one and expected to be close. So obviously, I mean, you got to decide what you're doing with Jokic. What are you doing, JSU, with Jokic? Are you going there coming off the triple-double game? Is there enough value to afford him, right? I think is like one of the bigger questions of every Joker slate. So I haven't decided on him. It depends on kind of where everything else goes with the slate, but obviously a good play. Towns, I think, is a pretty good play on the other side as well at 9,700. I do like Sabonis a little bit better at that price point, but like you said, center absolutely loaded. I'm not planning to end up on a ton of this game, but I mean, I could be convinced that that's a mistake. Where do you sit?
Yeah. I know I had an echo too, so if I still, it sounds like I still have an echo, so I might have to change out my AirPods real quick, DC. DC, hit the mute for a second. I just want to see if it's my end or if it's okay. I think the echo's gone now, so DC, just hang on mute a sec while I talk about it because I don't hear the echo anymore. So, if I'm still echoing from here, but I've heard it the whole time on my end when it just started happening and now it's gone. So it should sound good with DC on mute, but thank you. Okay, it's fixed. I needed at least one honest person to tell me it's fixed. Jokic in this spot against New York. I just don't know how we don't like it. My only problem is with Jokic is that there's so many good damn centers on this slate, but I pretty much locked them last time out. I do think this is a close game. I actually like the Knicks in this game, but I do think this game is fun. I think it's exciting. I think there's a lot of good plays on the Knicks side too, outside of Jokic. On Denver though, just to stay there for 1 sec, I do like Christian Brown. He's the Denver guy that I've actually really liked. I played him a bunch the last few slates. The game against Minnesota, he kind of disappointed, but they kind of also just got whooped. He was good. Like the first half of run was good for him. And then the second half, they kind of just got owned and nothing was clicking. Like even Jokic had a down game. So like when Jokic has a down game, you just have to expect that almost everyone else is coming with him, especially guys like Christian Brown, guys that need help to kind of get there. Jamal's really the only guy that can get there without Jokic. But like, if Jokic is having a good game, I think Christian Brown's one of the leading guys that can trail him, and his price tag's still at 4,800, and he's shooting guard, small forward eligible. I do like that. So he's one guy that I'm in on. I got no issues with Westbrook. I just don't think I'm going to have as much. Peyton Watson's a good cheapie to keep in the pool. I know Malone hates young guys, but this young guy is really good. He's super athletic. He's still kind of raw offensively, but I think it's getting better. Each game I watch him, I feel like he's playing a little better on that end. And defensively, man, this dude makes fucking plays. I mean, he swat the shit out of Julius Randle coming from the opposite side, and I don't think he gets enough. Julius Randle was on the left side. He was on the right side of the court. He comes all the way across and swats that shit as he was coming in for a dunk off like the backboard. It was sick. And then he swatted Rudy out of bounds on like a little bunny shot. He just literally came in and jumped up and swatted the shit out of it into like the second row. I was like, holy shit, this dude's a legit defender. But 3,600, I think he's someone we keep in the pool. Aaron Gordon's still not there. His minutes still aren't there. I'm not playing him. MPJ, I mean, I'm not playing him either. I think for me, it's Jokic and it's Brown and then maybe a little Watson and MME. New York, I definitely think Jalen Brunson, this is a good spot for him. I know people are going to talk up Cat. I think you can play Cat, obviously. But I kind of like Brunson. And I kind of like Hart if he plays. This, I feel like, is a spot where like Josh Hart could do some work. He's just expensive. But, those are the two guys that kind of stick out. Brunson and Hart. DC, is there anyone from the Knicks side that you like?
No one that stands out in particular. Cat, my favorite. Brunson would be 2. And yeah, I agree with everything you said about Denver. I think you nailed all that stuff. So yeah, good stuff.
What if that happens?
I still don't want to play him. I know he's cheap, but I just feel like the upside's not. And I bet his minutes wouldn't go up that much. But yeah.
So if he starts, I think that means that his minutes go up, which would make him a better play at that price tag. So I don't know that. I didn't hear that, but I'm assuming maybe you heard that from somewhere like a beat reporter or something like that. So if he starts, I think it makes him a better play. But yeah, right now I'm not playing.
Aaron Gordon at 4,300 in the starting lineup, obviously a pretty good play, right? At the very worst, I think.
Yep. Let's go to, we got 2 more games left here. Clippers and Spurs. We can run through these because I feel like there's probably not going to be a ton that you'll like, DC. So Harry Barnes been actually crushing the last couple games. I can't believe I'm saying that right now in the year 2025, but 35, 38, his last 2 games, putting up 20 and 25 actual points. He's 4,500.
You're not playing Harrison Barnes. Get out of here, JSU. Come on. There's no way.
I'm not playing Harrison Barnes, but I'm saying like he's 4,500. He's put up 35 and 38. I'm throwing him out there. Like I wanted to get your take. Your take is obviously we're not playing him. I second that take. Chris Paul at 6K against the Clippers. He really hasn't shown much upside though. I don't think I'm going to go there. And then I like the matchup for Wemby, but I just think with the centers on this slate, I'm not going to get to them. I can't play every center. I wish I could play 4 or 5 centers on this slate, DC, but I can't. So you see anything here you like? I'm not really on the Clippers either.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Wemby, if you're on Wemby, stay on him, whatever. You can go nuke in any game. I just personally like Sabonis, Joker, and Towns today, all better than Wemby, but I mean, who knows, right? Like, yeah, obviously he could absolutely nuke. I'm with you on CP3. I've kind of stopped playing him, especially on bigger slates. Just doesn't seem like he has 40 plus in him very often, almost no matter what happens around him. So, yeah, I'm with you, JSU. Pretty much off this game entirely.
Yeah, once Vassell kind of came back to his real role and stuff like that, because early with him, he wasn't really playing his full role. But once he kind of got back to that and, Wemby, and it kind of kicked Chris Paul a little to the side. But yeah, I definitely agree with that. And Joe, I forgot to bring up OG, but that's a good call. I don't mind him either. I think he's another Nick you could kind of throw in the pool. I like him more than Bridges. He's looked good for sure. And Steven says Kobe White limited to 25 to 28 minutes. We also got the news a little earlier that Grady Dick and Kelly Olynyk were ruled out. Caleb Martin was ruled out too about 15 minutes ago for the Philadelphia 76ers. So all that news, that's kind of good because we kind of talked about it. I feel like as if those guys would all sit, and they kind of all are. Let's go to the final game on the slate. DC Dallas in New Orleans. Dallas still down. A few guys, but I think Najee Marshall could be back. I know he's been dealing with an illness. He's questionable. I don't think we have anything definitive on him. Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington have been playing pretty good with some of these guys out. Klay Thompson had the big shooting game last time out. What are we doing here with Dallas, DC?
Yeah, I mean, they might get Marshall back, but I think pretty much everyone else that's been out will continue to be out. I have a hard time with the $7,400 Daniel Gafford price tag, even with the guys out that they are missing. But I've missed out on some big games, so I don't know. I'm probably gonna be stubborn and not play him again here. But clearly, he's capable of getting the job done. But 7,400, even 40, doesn't kill you, right? Not having it, or at least it shouldn't if the rest of your lineup's good. Go ahead.
I agree with you, but just throwing this out there, Jakob Poeltl just went for 53 against this team.
Yeah.
He's
probably a good play, but personally probably not going to end up on Mr. Gafford. Zion, another one. He's been crushing in limited minutes, but 8,600 is such a steep price to play for someone who's not even playing 30 minutes. So I probably won't go there. I might miss out on some good plays from this game, JSU, but I don't think I'm going to have, honestly, much. Probably all my players are going to be in that first, 7 and 7:30 Eastern time. In these last two games, I don't think I'm going to have too much from them.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really like these two games. Like, I think you brought up, I think Daniel Gafford's like one of the best plays from the Dallas side. And I think that, probably Zion and or DeJounte Murray are the two best plays from the New Orleans side. I don't really see much else though. I don't really see like any value that I particularly love from either of these two teams. So I'm with you. I'm kind of just lower on these late games and probably will be that. Zion though is, if you somehow catch the Zion Williamson 32-minute game when he finally goes from 27-28 to like 32-33, you're going to get a 60 burger probably. So that's the one thing. He's still probably limited, but man, when he gets off that, he's been just absolutely crushing. So again, this is a guy that I wouldn't just take out. It feels like projections are slow on him too. Like I've seen him kind of under projected, and every game he's pretty much outdone the projections. So he's one of those guys. I think you can, if you like him and you want to roll the dice on him, bump him up, because like you're gonna need him to get you, in that upper 40s to 50 range for tournaments. So, because again, he's not Scotty Barnes' price tag, but you're kind of like playing him in a way close to a guy like Scotty Barnes. And like Scotty Barnes can get me, 55, 60 on a given night, and I just feel like if I just have to pick, I would prefer Scotty because he's not on a minutes limit. But that's not to say that on a given night, Zion couldn't score 51, 52, and Scotty have an off game and score 45 and him outscore him. It's more like if I have to choose between the two, I'd prefer him. But yeah, lower on these two games. DC, that's all 9 games right there. We got through it. Under 2 hours. I just like to say under 2 hours so we're going in the right direction. Maybe Big T is the actual, loudmouth guy who likes to talk a ton and makes us go 2 hours, DC. I think that might be the old secret. I think Big T's the real one that drives these shows 2 hours.
Listen, we could talk ball all day if we wanted to, right?
Well, that is a good point. We could. we could. All right. Let's give the plays of the day, and we'll get out of here. Just a reminder, guys, too, if you're not a member at Run Pure Sports, RPS15 is the promo code. Gets you 15% off monthly, weekly payment, whatever you guys want to do to sign up. Still got one more week for the Super Bowl, NFL content next week. We'll have shows for that as well. We're also going to be doing giveaways each day of the week next week for those shows. So for each show from Monday to Friday and Sunday, no show on Saturday for football, but we'll have shows for pretty much all those days. And on each show, we're going to be doing a giveaway. And the giveaways, we're not 100% yet on the exact giveaways, but they will get better each day. We're kind of still going through that. So probably this week, Friday, I'll have a better idea of the giveaways exactly, but we'll be doing some different things, giving away some gear, possibly some tickets. You never know. So make sure you guys tune into those shows and even these shows too, because we might do some giveaways on some of these hoop shows as well. So that'll be next week for the Super Bowl week leading up to the Super Bowl. But if not a member, that's totally cool too. You can hit the like button on the video. That helps us out as well. And subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed to the Run Pure Sports YouTube channel, give us a subscribe and a thumbs up. All right, DC, play of the day. It can be, if you want to give like a chalky play that's going to be somewhat popular and then like a lower owned play, you can do that as well.
Yeah, just looking at the ownership here, I think he qualifies as not too chalky. I'll go with my man, Mr. Sabonis, putting up a big number in Philly tonight. Triple-double, 60+, and maybe outscores the Joker as well.
I like that. I like that call. You just going with one? Are you just sticking
one.
with the?
All I need JSU.
All right. I like that. I like the confidence right there too. I got to redeem myself for my crappy Fred VanVleet call. Got to redeem myself here. And I'm going to go back to one of my favorite games on the entire slate, which is Sacramento and Philly. And I'm with DC. He talked about Sabonis. I'm going to go the opposite side Sabonis, or I'm sorry, the guard spot, but Malik Monk, low owned, 7,200. I think he's in a good spot. Fox is slowly walking out the door, and Malik Monk has been quietly crushing in some of these spots, and I think he's going to be low owned. So I'm going to take another shot on a low owned guy. If that doesn't hit, I might have to choose a chalky guy tomorrow, but Malik Monk, my play of the day. We'll go same team. The tag team Monk and Sabonis for the giblets.
I love it. I was gonna go with Oubre, but I thought you were gonna take him. Then I didn't want to.
Dude, honestly, it was between Monk and Oubre. That was who I was going between. Was those two guys. So again, I think Oubre is a great play too. He's another guy I really.
We'll get a little Philly Sacramento game stack going.
Yes, definitely. I bet Eric Gordon sits back to back and Council crushes. I could see Council crushing. He randomly has some pretty solid games, so I could totally see that. I thought it was the funniest thing ever that Anthony Davis went from the greatest game of all time to bowing out after like 5 or 10 minutes or whatever it was. That literally made me laugh. It was the most bet prop was like Anthony Davis over 20 or 25 plus points on DK Sportsbook, and he left after 10 minutes. Do you see in that game?
They say, JSU, that stereotypes emerge for a reason, and there was a reason we all call Anthony Davis soft, because he leaves after 5 minutes of a game all the time, right? I mean, it's just is what. And
next game, watch, LeBron's gonna sit. Just calling that out now. Just watch. Next game, he's going to sit. He's actually already questionable on the not probable, but questionable. So with load management, wouldn't shock me if he took a nice rest day. That's all I'm going to.
He's like mad at Anthony, so he's like, I'm going to sit one out too. Is that what happens?
I mean, dude, it's got to suck playing on that team without Anthony. Did you watch any of that game? They look terrible on defense. I mean,
yeah.
Philly was I mean, everyone on Philly was getting anything they wanted. So, yeah, they looked really bad. But all right, that's going to do it here. We got to get our core plays up on the site, the player pool, the slate builder, DC's cores. We'll be in the Discord hanging out. Don't forget that code RPS15. We'll see you guys back tomorrow, same time, same place for DC and myself, JSU. We'll catch you guys tomorrow. We're out.